Hi, this is Marcela De Vivo, and I'm here with Travis Bernard from AOL. So, Travis, can you tell us a little bit about what you do at AOL?
Uh, yeah, sure. So I work on the audience development team there, and my team's main goal is to drive traffic to AOL's different sites. So some of those sites include like the Huffington Post, TechCrunch, Engadget, Autoblog. We have lifestyle sites like Style Me Pretty. So our team just tries to drive traffic to those sites. I specifically focus on the social media side of it. So there might be somebody in another part of my team that does SEO, another part does paid, but I just focus on the social side.
Awesome. And one of the questions that we hear a lot, and you're going to speak about tomorrow, is social media ROI. How do you track? What tools do you use? What are some of the best KPIs? Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it really just depends on what your goals are. And I think one of the biggest problems for social media marketers is they try to come up with the strategy before they come up with the goals. So, if you figure out what your goal is first, that's going to essentially dictate the metrics you use, the strategy you use. So, if your goal is sales, then, some of your KPIs should be associated with sales. Likewise, if your goal is to, serve more ads on your site, your goal should be driving more traffic. So you should be measuring on the traffic side. If you're doing something like newsletters, you might want to focus more on the acquisition side. So again, I mean, it really just depends on the goal. Something like maybe brand awareness, you might have to use a little more ambiguous of a metric, something like impressions. But again, it really just depends on the goal.
And how do you track it? Can you tell us a little bit more about the tools you use?
Yeah, sure. Again, it also depends on the goals as well. So, I mean, if you're doing something like impressions, I would focus, on something like Facebook Insights. Simply Measured has a really great tool out there for tracking that. If you're doing site traffic, Google Analytics is always a great tool. Omniture. And there's a lot of great free tools out there as well. As I mentioned before, Facebook Insights is really good. Twitter Ad Analytics is really good too. But yeah, I mean, again, it just depends on what your goals are and just trying to find the right tools that help you achieve that goal.
And can you give us an example of a campaign that you guys have launched and how you've tracked it? What are some of the KPIs, just so we can, make it more specific?
Yeah, sure. One of the brands I worked with, they were really seeing a lot of traffic decline on their site coming from Twitter. We had launched this huge ad campaign, and it wasn't managed in the best way. So as a result, the traffic was just sliding and sliding and sliding from Twitter. So our goal was to either prevent the traffic from continuing to slide or get the traffic to go back up. So one of the tactics we were testing out with that was, doing a tweet chat. A lot of people know that tweet chats have a great impact on engagement, but how will that affect our bottom line, which was getting traffic back up? So in this scenario, the metric we were tracking was, we were looking at engagement, which was kind of our secondary metric. It was important, but it wasn't necessarily, the most important thing. Traffic was the most important thing. So traffic was that, would have been that KPI, and we tracked that through, what we did is we used something like an NCID, which is like a tracking code, so that when we were sending links during this Twitter chat, people were actually going directly to the site, and we knew it was coming from that specific campaign. Obviously, there was also a little bit of a spillover, just people going directly to that site without clicking on a link as well. So we were able to measure, kind of direct impact as well as indirect impact, and it had a really positive effect on both engagement as well as site traffic coming from Twitter. So it was a good success.
So if somebody wants to understand how to put together a social tracking strategy, what would be some of the steps you'd recommend? It seems like you're saying you have to know what your goals are. Once they've got those established, what are the next steps?
I guess it depends on what the goal is at the end. So if I think doing a lot of research on what tools are out there is usually a great place to start. I think a lot of people are pretty aware of what a lot of the web tracking tools are. Google Analytics has a lot of really cool tracking tools. Event tracking, which is great. You can use those for newsletters. You can use them for social. Bitly is also a really good tool for something like that. Simply Measured is great for measuring engagement, especially for impressions on hashtags, @mentions, things like that. So again, it just depends on your goals there.
Okay, so Travis, tell us about your predictions for 2014. What do you see happening in the social space, particularly social in general, and particularly social analytics?
Sure. So I think on the social front, I think you're going to see more of a push towards video. I mean, it was already started getting more and more popular this year. Vine blew up, Instagram video blew up. You've heard all the rumors about Facebook putting in autoplay video ads. It seems like Twitter's right for that as well. So I think video is going to be even bigger play next year than it was this year. Another big prediction I would say is search. I think there's going to be a bigger emphasis on search within social. You've seen Facebook implement things like hashtags to increase discoverability, and Twitter has also been. They keep tweaking their app so that it's easier to find stuff, and I think you're just going to see more of an emphasis on that, especially with Pinterest also opening up their API as well. And I think between those three, I think search is going to be big on social.
What about Google Plus?
I think Google Plus is interesting because they really haven't opened up their analytics yet. So I don't think people are really going to start investing heavily in Google Plus until they know what's actually happening. Pinterest opened up their back end, and hey, how many people were repinning our content, how many clicks we were getting, which kind of how much traffic we were getting to our site from that individual platform. I don't think people really know what's going on Google Plus yet. You know how much traffic might be coming from Google Plus, but they haven't really opened that up yet, and I think they need to develop that before people really start investing more time in it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Travis.
Yeah, sure.